some dare call it conspiracy.
Welcome to Some Dare Call It Conspiracy with Brent Lee and Neil Sanders.
As the planet spirals into a fascist dystopia, we thought someone really should keep a record of this decline, so that when the aliens are sifting through the ashes of civilization, they might be able to see where it all went wrong.
This is The World According to Some.
Or as all the hepcats are calling it, T.W.A.T.S. We're on to February the 16th, in the year of our Lord, the foul year of our Lord. And if we remember, it's pretty much normal. Donald Trump has decided that is tweeting out Napoleon quotes, suggesting that he might be a dictator above the law. Elon Musk is responding positively by tweeting out 14 American flags, which some had seen as a potential dog whistle, but being as much as it invokes the 14 words of David Lane, which is a white supremacist phrase about retaining the white race. So it's not great, is it? It's it's all a bit dystopic. And do you know who'd spotted it? Who'd spotted this dystopia? Where others in his ilk had failed to do so. David Icke. Still got it. Basically, obviously, Donald Trump had tweeted out, he who saves his country does not violate any law, which is really sketchy, to be quite honest. It's I don't know. It's the sort of thing that somebody that might shoot up a building would have tattooed across their chest.
Well, like we said in the last episode, that's coming from a convicted felon.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that too. Yeah, and con man, and according to certain courts, a rapist. Anyway, David Icke actually points out that this post, which calls for outright dictatorship without checks and balances, has 60 million views and 320,000 likes as I post. See how easy dictatorship is when you seize control of human minds to the extent that they cheer their own enslavement. This is precisely what they did in Nazi Germany. And he has a point. In all fairness, he
does, but he's doing the thing he did at 9/11 where he tried to bring in the lefties.
Yeah, of course he is. I mean, everything that he does is about promoting his brand, and ultimately, you could even go so far as to say, he's always done the I'm right about this and I'm right about this and blah blah blah. He's such a contrarian that he'll even be a contrarian within the conspiracy crowd a lot of the time, and that he's obviously using this to try and get some sort of attention and I don't know, whatever out of it, but he does happen to be right. So anyway, that phrase, we keep saying that it's a Napoleon phrase, and this basically, Snopes pointed out, many people recognise the passage as a quote from Napoleon Bonaparte, the first emperor of France. It first appeared in Maximes et Penses de Napoleon, which I'm pretty sure I absolutely nailed the pronunciation of there, by the French author Honoré de Balzac. De Balzac. Language. No. Anyway. The book, published in 1838, 17 years after Napoleon's death in exile, is a compilation of aphorisms Balzac attributed to France's former emperor. The author wrote in a letter to Ewelina Hanska, the woman who would become his wife, that he spent around 7 years writing down in a kitchen book each new and striking thought said by Napoleon. Indeed, in his book Maxime 97, it reads in French, Celle crée sa patrie ne voulait aucune loi, which again I'm pretty sure I nailed, which means apparently he who saves the fatherland violates no law. And this is one of those things where it's not entirely clear whether it is actually Napoleon, but it's one of these things that is attributed to Napoleon. the context of why he said it is also entirely unclear. It's basically goes off Balzac, and he did seem to know what he was talking about. He spent years researching Napoleon's life. His sources included Napoleon's niece, Letizia Bonaparte, but also the problem is that Balzac was an admirer of the emperor, and he contributed to developing certain myths around the man. The long and short of it is, though, that is not a sort of quote that the president of the free world, of the free country of the United States, should be saying. It has got dictatorial trappings, shall we say. But yeah, someone didn't see it that way. Can you guess it? Alex Jones. Strangely, Alex Jones said, "This is weird. He who saves his country does not violate any law. The moronic left is trying to spin Trump's perfectly clear statement as dictator talk." And yeah, like we'll go on a bit more. We'll explain a little bit more as to what Alex said just shortly, because he did actually do a whole video about it. Although, I mean, spoilers, it's not really much clearer what he thinks than that fairly incoherent statement, to be quite honest. So what's your take on Trump saying that?
I'm with David on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's made me really reconsider whether the lizards might be real. I mean, it's not. It's one of these things where, again, you hope that he doesn't mean it and he's just a blustering bullshit artist, which we know him to be, but he's also insane, so it is very tricky. We might be in a bit of a pickle with that. Somebody else that's in a bit of a pickle, Elon Musk. Have you ever heard of somebody called Ashley St. Clair?
No.
No, I'd not either. I've got no idea who she is. 26-year-old MAGA writer, apparently. And she revealed on the 16th, well, I'll just read it to you. 5 months ago, I welcomed a new baby into the world. Elon Musk is the father. I have not previously... Yeah. Elon's quest to repopulate the planet in his own image is continuing, apparently. She goes on to say, I've not fully disclosed this to protect our child's privacy and safety, but in recent days it has become clear that tabloid media intends to do so, regardless of the harm it will cause. I intend to allow our child to grow in a normal and safe environment, and for that reason, I ask that the media honour our child's privacy and refrain from invasive reporting. Yeah, I mean, that's a little suspicious, isn't it? It's one of those things where that seems to be a sort of like, it's totally, absolutely, I didn't want to do this, obviously, and get all the attention and stuff like that. But but I was absolutely backed into a corner because the media were gonna, do stuff. I mean, maybe she has another reason to do it. Who can say? Like, but she certainly changed her tune with the media because she decided to do an interview with the New York Post. And basically, in this, she gave a bit of the background as to how she managed to meet Elon Musk. Apparently, Musk slid into her DMs, which is youth speak, isn't it, for messaging people? And this was in May 2023. And she told the New York Post that she met Musk for the first time in San Francisco when she was 24. So that'd be a couple of years ago. And their romance grew from there. Hang on. How was his kids with Grimes? Was he still with Grimes? Was he crying over Amanda Heard at that point? I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's very hard to understate how much I'm processing right now. I'm sad that my hand was forced by the media to do this now, but there's also a sense of relief because I've been forced to live in secrecy for almost a year of my life. I cannot explain the kind of primary pain you feel as a mother, and you're talking to people and they ask you about the one kid and you have to lie and carry this burden in secret. You have to lie to people you love. So, Sinclair went on to say that she hasn't communicated with Musk since posting the statement, which was not flagged with community note to warn viewers of misinformation. Sinclair said she notified his team that she would be writing about her claims on X on Friday before she hit send. So, I mean, this is the thing. She claims that she told Musk that she was going to do this, and implying at this point that this is fine. We've just got a relationship. I've just had a kid with the most richest man on the planet. It's just fine. It's just what we do nowadays. Sliding into DMs, having kids, billionaires trying to take over Mars. It's just it's on fleek, isn't it?
Standard.
Absolutely. It's lit. Somebody jumped to
Don't do this,
Neil. Anyway, so YOLO. Someone jumped to Elon Musk's defense. It's not someone that you entirely want to jump to your defense. It's potentially somebody you want to jump into a crevasse. But anyway, somebody jumped to Elon Musk's defense. Do you want to have a guess? This is a bit of a little bit of a sort of was residing in the "Where Are They Now" file, and has tried various things.
I don't know. After Grimes protecting him for playing video games, his mum coming out and saying, "Stop
Please
picking
don't
on
call
him.
my
He's
son
a
a
Nazi."
Nazi.
I can't even think.
It's a bit left field, but absolutely more right wing. It's Milo Yiannopoulos.
Oh.
Yiannopoulos, or whatever his name is. The far right activist, and he basically came to Elon's defense, and basically he claimed that this girl Sinclair had been in a plot to ensnare Musk. And
oh God.
well, I mean, I don't know. Like, there's some old tweets from 2020 basically saying that this is like, oh, I need to go and get Elon to marry me. Oh, I need to get pregnant by Elon, blah, 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 stuff like that. But it's one of those things where it's like...
And that's why he slid into her DMs. He was like,
well,
easy. Let's
yeah,
go.
like...
you have a need and a want. I have the opportunity to give it to you.
Yeah, this is the thing. But
that
Milo,
is children, because he wants children.
Well, yeah. Well, this is the thing. Like, I mean, at least 12 of Elon Musk's children were conceived via IVF. And so they know the right wing try and portray him as this like top shagger, but it's all a bit more sort of
he's no Russell Brand.
Here's a cup of my like chilled love juice, do with it what you will. Like, it's not... yeah, he's no Russell Brand, is he? Like,
Shagger of the year.
Yeah, 2 years running in the sun. Like, at the same time that
God.
he was being accused of all sorts of things. But so anyway, Milo obviously keen to defend Elon Musk, who I didn't know he'd had any interest in, to be quite honest, before this. But he decides that the best way to discredit her is to post a picture of her when I think he thought that she was 16, but she claims that she was 15 in the in the post. And this might give an explanation as to why she decided to post announcing that she was Elon's the mother of Elon's latest love child. She posts to Elon openly on Twitter, "Elon, we've been trying to communicate for the past several days and you've not responded. When are you going to reply to us instead of publicly responding to smears from an individual who just posted photos of me in underwear at 15 years old?" So, potentially, it would appear at this point that she might have put the entire tweet out and the story in the New York Post in order to get Elon's attention. Um, why? Who can say? I mean, it may be that we've just gone past Valentine's Day. She's just had a baby with Elon Musk, and well, it doesn't sound like he got in touch. And people frown on it when you do things like that, like, use them as brood mares and stuff. Like, it's one of those things where treating women as sort of receptacles to sire the future offspring of your empire. I don't know. Some people, it doesn't sit easy with them. Like, I don't know. But so anyway, so Milo's back in the press, and this
He's back
guy,
in T.W.A.T.S.
yeah, absolutely, congratulations. And so this guy on Twitter, whose name is escaping me right now, but I will try and reference who it was, put out this fantastic thread of all the times that Milo had done controversial shit, and I thought, well, that's quite entertaining, isn't it? Anyway, so it turns out that Mulatto Milo has defended paedophilia quite a few times. Many of us might remember when he went on Joe Rogan and he defended the older priest who had essentially abused him as a child. And he said that it was no big thing, and he taught him how to give great head and blah, blah, blah. And he also tried to convince Joe Rogan on the show. It's like, oh, come on, Joe, have you never seen a 15-year-old girl and thought that she was really hot? I've seen 15-year-old boys and thought they were really hot. Or some words to that effect. And Joe said, I did, yeah, when I was 15. On another podcast, he said that the age of consent very much depends on the maturity of the person, and that mature 13-year-olds could consent. And on numerous other occasions, he's tried to explain that like the age of consent is a lot lower in other countries, and it's all starts to paint a bit of a sordid picture, really. Also, when he was on Joe Rogan, he said that he was on boat parties with a Hollywood director, which was widely regarded to be Bryan Singer, where he saw very young twinks being plied with drugs and having sex with older men. But he didn't want to say who these people were because of discretion. Yeah. Anyway, so Hollywood director of The Usual Suspects, Bryan Singer, has been accused of making young boys get naked of set on An Apt Pupil, which was a film that he did. There was a lot of rumours flying around. He was also accused of having sex parties, sometimes on boats, with sex offender Mark Collins Rector. Singer was also mentioned in the 2014 film An Open Secret. Also, the author of American Psycho, Bret Easton Ellis, accused Singer of having sex with an underage boy, and several men have accused Singer of sexual assault and rape. Anyway, back to Milo. Do you know Baked Alaska, that prat that used to wear the sunglasses with the mullet, that is like a far-right influencer? He did that fucking awful song about Donald Trump.
Yeah, I know the guy. Idiot.
Yeah.
Total idiot. Wasn't he at like J6?
I'm pretty sure he was. I think he was. He didn't go into the office, and there was that lad that looked very much like Nick Fuentes, but actually wasn't Nick Fuentes.
I'm pretty sure I was watching his stream of J6 when it was happening.
Fair enough. Did you know that he used to be Milo Yiannopoulos' manager?
No.
No, I didn't. Basically he accused Milo of plying underage boys with booze and drugs in a message, a private message. He said, I don't know if you guys know about this situation, but during Milo's tour, he had two, in inverted commas, 18-year-old twinks sleeping on it in his bed with him. I was in the hotel and had to switch rooms because they were literally getting drunk, doing coke, and fooling around under the covers. And the documentary crew quit because he refused to stop giving them coke and alcohol, and they said they couldn't film that. They looked extremely young, and I suspect that they were actually younger than 18. But nonetheless, they weren't even 21, and he was pumping them up with alcohol and coke before having sex with them. Sick stuff. Also, one thing that I didn't know at all, apparently Milo is allegedly a federal informant who spoke to the FBI about his contacts, and he demanded $3,500 whether this was supplied or whether he went through with it. But it seems like he might have ratted on some of the people who attended the Charlottesville rally,
Oh.
isn't it? More weird. Apparently, he tried to hire someone to kill baked Alaska's cats.
What?
Apparently, he tried to hire someone to kill baked Alaska's cats, presumably in a response to them falling out and baked Alaska spreading rumors about him. He also tried to hire another person to beat up Nick Fuentes and film it. He apparently encouraged drug addicts to visit Nick's house and to assault him, and offered favors in return.
Okay, so maybe the cat thing's a bit more excusable.
Well,
now.
yeah, like
swings and roundabouts.
Well, it depends actually. Of all of those, I'd be like, don't hurt the cat.
No, totally. But
right, there was a very interesting thing as well. We recently had an argument on the Tim Pool show. He went on to the Tim Pool show and he was wearing glasses, and I don't know whether he's got a nerve problem or what. There was something strange about the way he was talking. He was talking as if his jaw was going at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and he was somehow simultaneously had too much spit and not enough spit in his mouth. If you know, you know. Anyway, in this particular state, he was chatting with Tim Pool, and just out of nowhere, he decided that he needed to criticize somebody else that he's decided that he hates, Dave Rubin. And he basically called him really stupid for taking money from Tenant Media. Now, for people that don't really know, there was this company called Tenant Media that was essentially backed by the Kremlin, and it got in touch with certain right-wing media figures and paid them a huge amount of money to report certain stories that were pro-Russia and anti-Ukraine. And many of these people just took the money without checking who it was from and trotted out the essentially propaganda that they were asked to say. And one of these people was Dave Rubin. And Milo called him stupid. He says, it is irresponsible in the extreme to the point of ludicrous negligence to not know where hundreds of thousands of dollars are coming from. And Tim got very cross. Do we know why, Tim?
So.
Do we know
I
why?
would expect so. Yes, yes. I was just thinking, what the audacity of you sat there saying that in front of Tim Pool, because Tim Pool was on Tenant Media.
Absolutely, he also took the money. He also didn't check where it was from. Brilliant. So yeah, Tim got very, very cross and tried to defend it. And Milo was put in a position where he was still determined to just keep having a go at Dave Rubin. And it took an uncomfortably long time for him to realise that, oh yeah, Tim took that money as well. And then he sort of wound it back a bit and said, perhaps I don't know all the details of your situation. And it was just it fabulously encapsulated how fake the entire right-wing media is in just one very, very short sort of like back and forth, and just how
for a minute there he forgot where he was.
yeah well, I'd say like there are some people who have looked at the way he was acting and suggesting he doesn't know where he is, but again that's just opinion and conjecture from the internet. But you know who else really thought that it was great that Elon Musk had yet another child with a random woman?
Alex Jones.
Of course it was Alex Jones. Elon Musk could shit in his shoe and put it in Alex Jones's face, and Alex Jones would probably go straight on.
I always wanted a shit shoe.
Absolutely. Thank you, Elon. Anyway, so he went immediately on Twitter, and some people have accused him of being like a sycophant, but he quelled that with this. Fantastic to see Elon Musk building a prodigious family and rejecting the childless culture of the death cult. He's a true pioneer in every sense, showing that traditional values can thrive in modern times. Elon has great taste in engineering, politics, and women. A big family is a blessing and a must to ensure the future of human civilization. I wish them all the best. And this was to this was a response to AF Post, who tweeted out, Elon Musk now has 13 children with 4 different women, Ashley Sinclair being the latest. And we must go back over that thing about he's a true pioneer in every sense, showing that traditional values can thrive in modern times. Now, I don't care how many parents are involved in a family. It's none of my business. It's only down to those involved with it. Alex should not think that. Alex is supposed to be conservative. And so this is basically another very, very clear example of Alex completely just folding on his principles publicly in order to just basically toady up to Elon Musk.
Well, it's not exactly the traditional nuclear family, is it?
No. This is the thing, and Alex's fans were not shy in telling him this. So within basically a very, very short time, there were literally hundreds of people, and every single one of them was pissed off. To give you a sort of a hint, Astronaut Girl said, "A big family with 4 women? That's not traditional." Dubs said, "It's hard to believe Elon having a kid with Ashley Sinclair because of the way he's acted the last 2 days." Emma the Misfit said, "So disappointing reading this, Alex. Out of all the conservative commentators, you've been the one that has been most disappointing. Shameful. So sad and shameful." Truth Seeker said, "Man, Alex has fell off a cliff." Diego said, "So we're now celebrating single motherhood? Because he definitely ain't raising those children. What happened to children needing both of their parents raising them? Don't this matter no more?" Sean Christopher Holohan succinctly put, "Fuck this Elon worship, Alex. You're a Christian. Fornication and polyamory is not something you applaud, and you know it. Kiss ass much." So, yeah, but you can see the line that Alex is skating at the minute. That basically he's in a real fucking mess because he cannot criticize anything that Trump does, and he cannot criticize anything that Musk does. The Musk thing is, well, it's twofold, right? One of them is basically it's this closeness to power. Donald Trump is, he's the president, and he's fucking around with Joe Rogan and Dana White and fucking Kid Rock. It's it's the cheapest version of Kennedy knocking around with the Camelot crowd and that, isn't it? It's like Sammy Davis Jr. and Peter Lawford and Dean Martin. It's a different caliber. Frank Sinatra wouldn't shoot up a load of Bud Light cans. Actually, he probably might. But yeah, you see my point. It's tacky. It's very tacky. But yeah, that was Alex's fans' response, and some people obviously were praising Elon, and just happy for him that he's got another child or whatever, and other people weren't so happy. And other people just wanted to spread salacious gossip. And one of those people was Azalea Banks. Do you know Azalea Banks?
Yeah.
Rapper and basically strange troublemaker. She did that song 313 is the only one that I've ever really heard. And anyway, somebody was chatting to her. Someone called Cloning Hour was chatting to her about Elon Musk. This whole thing was shared by Liam Neeson, who simply said, "Grimes told me this too." Liam Neeson is somebody that just trolls right-wingers and Trump fans on Twitter. Anyway, Cloning Hour said, talking about Elon Musk, "I heard he has a botched penis implant," to which Azalea Banks responded, "Grimes told me this too." So, according to Azalea Banks, Grimes told her that Elon Musk has had a botched penis implant. Which, who knows? Maybe that's why the insistence on IVF, potentially. Or maybe it's all complete bullshit, because Azealia Banks, she's not the most reliable person, or perhaps the most, what's a polite way of saying it, stable. She's got a past, shall we say. In 2016, she posted several posts which would be described as racist and homophobic. It was essentially a rant against Zayn Malik, who was that kid that was in One Direction. And for some reason, she decided to just have a go at him and be racist and homophobic to him. She later decided to target a young actress called Sky Jackson. And as a result of this, she was actually booked by her UK booking agency, and kicked off like hip hop festivals and stuff like that. And her Twitter was suspended for a bit. Later that particular year, she decided to file a police report against Russell Crowe, of all people, claiming that he'd choked her and he'd spat on her before proceeding to call her the N-word during a party in his hotel suite. However, the case was dropped. Weirdly, though, somebody actually sort of supported her claims. He did condemn her as saying basically she's just obnoxious and erratic, and her behaviour was crazy. But he essentially he supported the story, or at least aspects of the story, not necessarily the calling of the N-word, but certainly that she was choked and manhandled by Russell Crowe. That was the RZA from Wu-Tang Clan. Appearing on the Breakfast Club, he apparently was there in the room, and so later, when asked about it, Russell Crowe said, "Look, I removed her from the premises because she was being threatening, and she had said that she was going to physically assault other attendees." So it sounds like she was probably grabbed around the throat and thrown out of the building by Russell Crowe. Also that year, so busy year for Azealia Banks. She posted a series of videos on Instagram detailing her cleanup of a closet in her apartment, where she claimed to have been practicing witchcraft.
Brujeria,
I
was a conspiracist at this time, and we wrote about this one.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah. What did she? She had dead chickens and blood and stuff like that.
Yeah, she's practicing brujeria, I think it is. It's called. I think it's South American voodoo.
Ah, fair enough. There's a band called Brujeria, which is sort of, or they're based on cartel murders and that sort of thing.
Yeah, because they do that. The cartels and the people who clean up the bodies and stuff. They're like witch doctors and shit, man.
Oh, right, okay. And it's like a sort of, it's one of these like Santeria type religions. Yes. Not Santeria, but it's got the sort of, it's sort of half bit of Catholicism, bit of sort of South American stuff in there and whatnot, a bit of West Indian.
I think actually Santeria might be South American stuff, and then Brujeria might be Caribbean.
Right, okay.
I'm not positive, actually. I should kind of shut up.
No, but it's that type of thing, like, you know, isn't it? We're just trying to explain what it is to the listeners, basically. Apparently, in January 2021, she received criticism after posting a video on Instagram of her digging up and cooking her dead pet cat.
Yep.
But she said later that she didn't eat it; she just exhumed it for taxidermy purposes. Which is, I mean, it's still a little unusual, isn't it? In January 2019, she posted xenophobic remarks about Irish people after performing in Ireland, in which she used ethnic slurs and mocked the Great Famine. And that August, she posted xenophobic remarks about Swedish people after performing in Sweden, adding that she would really love to see someone bomb the shit out of this place. So again, there is a bit of a pattern. She does appear to have a little bit of a temper, this girl. So, you know, potentially not the most reliable. However, you know, if anybody listening knows anything about Elon Musk's penis, please get in touch and, you know, let us know about it.
So to clear up, brujeria, it is witchcraft in Latin America, known in Spanish as brujeria, and in Portuguese as brujaria. It's a
Oh, yeah.
blend of indigenous, African, and European beliefs. So it's a mix of different witchcrafts.
And is voodoo Haitian?
Yes.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Fair enough. Lots of different beliefs. And I'll tell you who's got lots of different beliefs. David Icke and Alex Jones. And their back and forth is continuing. It's just going on. But it's only going on Twitter. For some reason, David isn't going on Alex's show. And I
And
don't
he's
know
been
what.
invited so many times.
He has been invited, and like the thing is, it could be that basically he realizes that this, if he does, that'll probably be the end of any relationship that he's got with Alex, because he's got to sort of be, confrontational, hasn't he?
Yeah, and he makes money from tweets,
Oh yeah,
not
this
from
is true.
going
Yeah.
on to Alex Jones's show.
And the other thing is, if he goes on Alex Jones's show and Alex falls out with him, he might block him on Twitter or whatever and stuff like that. It's still a bit of a sort of safe game. That might be it. It could just be that Alex is lying and he's like, I don't know, fucking guy on, because I mean Alex is in a pickle as well, because at least a degree of Alex's audience will listen to David and or at least will know of him. A lot of his audience won't be following this on Twitter. And if David was to come on, they'll just go, oh, that's David, that guy that said the things about the things before or whatever. And he might have credibility. And then if he starts like coming out with reasonable criticisms of Trump and reasonable criticisms of Elon Musk, or reasonable within that world, then Alex is kind of fucked a bit, isn't he? I mean, that doesn't always matter, because Alex will just change his opinion like halfway through a sentence. But as we've pointed out, he is walking a bit of a tightrope.
Yeah, I mean, they're both stuck in this weird dichotomy of audience capture, trying to get each other's audience a little bit.
Yeah. So if you remember before, like basically Alex had tweeted out, the moronic left is trying to spin Trump's perfectly clear statements as dictator talk, just because he's essentially quoting a dictator. David Icke responded to that. It doesn't need to be spun, because it is dictator talk. And I am not stupid enough to be on the left or the right in a one-party state to think they used to call others sheeple. Oh, the irony. But don't worry, it's okay when we do it. Which is a reasonable sort of like critique of Alex at the minute, because basically Alex is supporting all sorts of what he would consider police state actions, like executive orders. Previously, he said executive orders are tyrannical, utilizing the military and militarized police to round people up. Previously, he would have said that was police state tactics. He used to say that toll booths were police state tactics. Like, also, he used to say that road that they were going to build in the middle of America that would have made it easier to get from Mexico to Canada was a foundation step in the New World Order, because it would turn that entire continent into one region. But he's basically praising them, suggesting that they should annex Canada and Greenland and the Panama Canal, using military force if possible, whilst at the same time basically saying, oh wow, China, it looks like there's going to be nuclear war with China and stuff. He's just all over the place. He's a prat. But David makes this point, and what it was that Alex said in the entire speech, because there was a video posted with that, what he said in it was, the mainstream media tried to say Trump is Judge Dredd, the comic book character from Mega City. I am the law. Trump didn't say, I am the state, like Mussolini. He didn't say, I am the law. He said, who is trying to save his country is not breaking the law. He who tries to put out a house on fire is not breaking the law. He who takes care of his family is not breaking the law. Democrats have been saying he is breaking the law, that he is a tyrant with all these executive orders. That is not saying for the greater good I can break any law I want to. And then he goes on to say that he's nothing like Hitler or Mussolini because Trump was elected. which doesn't entirely work because Mussolini was elected, and although Hitler wasn't elected to, he was given the chancellorship, but it was perfectly legal. He didn't come to power through they did it through political means. Now, of course, there were street thugs and stuff like that, but yeah, it doesn't really work. Also, he who tries to put out a house on fire is not breaking the law. Well, it depends how you do it. If you do it by running a tank over it, killing all the occupants, yeah, you very much are breaking the law. If you do it in such a negligent way that it makes it worse, like say if just one room's on fire and you pour petrol on it because you really genuinely think that basically the best way to kill a fire is to feed it until it pops, then yes, you could be held liable. You are breaking the law. He who takes care of his family is not breaking the law. I mean,
depends what take care of means.
I mean, you did like. I suppose he's trying to invoke
Like
that
the mafia
stealing.
take care of.
Well, absolutely. But even the sort of stealing bread to feed your starving child or whatever, it's like that's still breaking the law. You might have a moral justification for that.
This is the whole plot of Les Mis.
That's what I was going to say. Is he never fucking seen Les Mis? Of course, he's never seen Les Mis. Like, God, that's another another musical that we really like. Christ. Anyway,
Musicals are good.
yeah, some of them are like. Did you ever like the one that I didn't like? I would probably never go see is that Green Day one. That sounded insufferable, and I quite like Green Day. Like, yeah, but it did sound dreadful. But hey, what can you do? Anyway, so that's just utter bullshit scrabbling from Alex. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. It's just it doesn't explain why it's not tyrannical, why it's dictatorial. That doesn't work. His examples don't work. And like what he's saying as well is that the ends justify the means, which he basically says that I'm not saying for the greater good I could break any law I want. You are. That's exactly what you're saying. You're saying that the ends justify the means, and it's all to justify Trump basically going outside of the law to have tyrannical power. And so the reason that those checks and balances are in there are to ensure that the leader of the country doesn't have dictatorial power, which is something that Alex has been moaning about since before anyone knew who he fucking was. Like, Bill Cooper would be spinning in his grave right now, like saying, I fucking told you Alex was a wrong un. Like, but yeah. Sentiment on Twitter was this. Sean Patrick said, in a few short years, Alex Jones has transformed into a globalist that fully supports anything that our federal government does while refusing to question their authority. Wild. And yeah, it's absolutely true. It's ridiculous. But so we're now on to February the 17th. And this furore around Donald Trump seeming to say that he's a dictator, it's not going down well. And The Guardian have decided to do a story about it. And they say, critics rounded on Donald Trump on Sunday for likening himself to Napoleon in a dictatorial social media post echoing the French emperor's assertion that he who saves his country does not violate any laws. The post came at the end of another tumultuous week in Trump's second presidency, during which acolytes questioned the legitimacy of judges making a succession of rulings to stall his administration's aggressive seizure or dismantling of federal institutions and budgets. He is the most lawless president in US history, Robert Reich, a former US Secretary of Labor, wrote on Wednesday in The Guardian. This is bonkers. In our system of government, it's up to the courts to determine whether the president is using his power legitimately, not the president. According to the Associated Press, the administration is now facing at least 70 lawsuits nationwide covering actions from the attempted elimination of birthright citizenship to the freezing of federal grants and funds, and with the accessing of sensitive computer systems and data by unofficial entities. Like, he's not even been in for an entire month. This is the 17th. And it's crazy.
This is mad.
They're cutting departments. They're firing. Here's something that struck me as well. Right? Okay, one of the things that they always talk about is jobs and such like that. They're making huge numbers of people unemployed. Like, how is that good? I mean, they're sort of rationalising it on the Twitter sphere by saying, well, it's cutting government efficiencies, finding all this fraud and stuff like that. And it's like, well, yeah, but these people's jobs weren't fraud. Like, they must have been doing something. Like, and again, we'll reiterate, like, every single thing that they've said thus far has turned out to be utter fucking bullshit. Like, it's crazy. Like, they haven't found anything that could be considered fraud or wrongdoing. It's absolutely bizarre, to be quite honest.
And if these people lost their jobs and there's claims of fraud, wouldn't those people be actually just be locked up if they were doing the fraud? Or
You'd think so, wouldn't you? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they're trying to make it
none of
out
this
like
makes sense.
no, none of it makes sense. They're trying to make it out like the essential that the civil service is like this sort of mysterious espionage riddled sort of place where all of this sort of like everybody's in on the take and blah blah blah, and like, it's all a fiddle, and literally billions of pounds are being paid for people to do fuck all, and it's not. It's, a lot of the work is laborious. It's very, very worthwhile, and to be quite honest, it's not sexy. It's completely dull and grey. And speaking of things that are not sexy and completely dull and grey,
David Icke.
bit of a throwback
Elon
here.
Musk's mum.
No, but but not far off. John Major.
Oh no! Don't say those words every time you say John Major. I think Edwina Curry.
Exactly, Edwina Curry. Like, she wrote in her book. She was a former cabinet minister. She wrote in her book a supposedly fictionalized account of a sexual encounter with a senior politician, including whipped cream and strawberries. And then it transpired that this had actually happened in real life, which should be a bit like watching two shellless Galapagos Isle turtles wrestle in a puddle. It wouldn't be the most erotic thing that you've ever seen. I'll put it that way. Anyway, so John Major, he came back and accused Donald Trump of cuddling up to Vladimir Putin, and he warned that tin pot dictators around the world would be emboldened if the US agrees on a deal that would leave Russia in control of Ukrainian territory. He also suggested if a very aggressive Russia was to succeed in their adventure in Ukraine, no doubt they would be elsewhere before too long. A retreat by the US towards isolation would also leave the door open for China and Russia, he said. There's no doubt in my mind that the world is changing and that it's reshaping, that it may not be reshaping in a way that's congenial to the West, and it's a very unsettled time indeed. He also hit out at a rant by Mr. Trump's deputy, J.D. Vance, on Friday, saying it's extremely odd to lecture Europe on the subject of free speech and democracy at the same time that they're cuddling Mr. Putin. He warned, consider what happens if Russia can claim a win. China is going to notice that, and so will the world, and so will every tin pot dictator around the world. If America is not to stand behind its allies in the way that the world has previously seen, then we're moving into a wholly different and, in my view, rather more dangerous world. So, actually, relatively sensible words there from John Major, the former Prime Minister and apparent top shagger from the United Kingdom. What he was talking about there with, what he's saying is absolutely correct. And Trump is basically being fooled, which does make you wonder whether that piss tape was actually real, to be quite honest, or what other compromise it might have on him. When he was talking about J.D. Vance did a speech, and basically he started moaning about Europe was retreating from some of its most fundamental values, and he argued that basically there was no free speech in the UK. What was it he said? Like he referenced all sort of bullshit. He was basically talking about recent things where like somebody got like sanctioned for silently praying outside an abortion center, and it's like, no, they weren't. They were trespassing, and they had been told not to go there, like, you know, because they'd been previously harassing people. Yeah, exactly, and stuff like that. But it's just Vance just being a dick, and it's all in line essentially with Twitter. What it's really about, aside from sort of red meat to his base, just by, you know, oh, you can't say anything, you get arrested for saying things in the UK and Europe, it's disgraceful over there. What he's trying to say is that it's to do with Twitter, is really what it is about. In Europe, they're really looking at trying to put the DSA into effect, which would hold platform owners to account. In America, they're not so keen on that. They don't give a shit about it. They're more going down the community notes, which is ridiculous because it's basically like, well, we'll let the people decide what's true. It's like, the people don't know what's fucking true. Like, why would they? Why would they? They weren't there. You've got to get this information through some sort of conduit, and this just opens the door for like gaming of the system essentially. And so this free speech bullshit, it's twofold a con. One, it's basically, I can't say the N word, and I can't be really mean to trans people. And then the second point is that basically, yeah, platforms are going to be held to account for some of the sort of libelous shit and like harmful shit that is on their platform. And JD Vance, who's in the pocket of Peter Thiel and Elon Musk, doesn't want that to happen. So John Major, as much as he might look like a vampire, he actually was speaking the truth. And speaking of vampires, remember I'd promised that there would be vampires?
Yes.
Well, Elon Musk.
You said that in in reference to the Social Security thing?
Yeah. Basically, like, all it was really was that basically Elon Musk he's been beavering away trying to find all this fraud and stuff like that, and he's got this.
Kids have.
Well, his kids have, yeah, absolutely.
Like, muskrats or whatever they're called.
Like the electronic Fagin. Like, it's like... But he says that according to the Social Security database, there are numbers of people in each age bucket with the death field set to false. Maybe Twilight is real and there are a lot of vampires collecting Social Security. And then he did 2 crying, laughing emoji faces. My God, this man's inept. Like Christ. Like it's I've stared at walls that have got more social interaction skills than this man. Like, you know, I've had splinters that have got more charisma than Elon fucking Musk, right? So anyway, this database, it goes 40 to 49, 50 to 59, blah, blah, blah. Numbers in the 45 million, 46 million is into the 60 to 69. 80 to 89, 15 million. Then 90 to 99, there's apparently over 6 million people collecting Social Security. Fair enough. More strange, apparently 4,734,407 people over the age of 100 and under the age of 109 are collecting Social Security. 110 to 119, over 3.5 million. In the 120 to 129 age range, 3.5 million. Nearly 4 million in the 130 to 139, 140 to 149, 3.5 million, 150 to 159 years old. There's only 1,345,000 of them. And then obviously it tailors down, ending up with 448 people in the 190 to 199 years old that are apparently claiming Social Security. And it's worse than that. Elon Musk worked out that 83% of Social Security claims are for people who were dead. And he comes to this conclusion because some random guy on Twitter pointed out that, hang on, if you add all of those numbers up, that makes 394,943,364. But the total population of the United States of America is 334 million. And Elon Musk goes, yes, there are far more eligible Social Security numbers than there are citizens in the United States of America. This might be the biggest fraud in history. And you say it might be that. Let's first start, why is he making a Twilight reference? That's come on. That's for girls. Say the Lost Boys. Say Dracula. Say anything. There's a Nosferatu film that's just come out. Say Nosferatu. Reference Near Dark. Most people won't get that because it's a little bit more obscure, but it has got Bill Paxton in it. And Lance Henriksen. And the woman who plays that woman that's both Vasquez and John Connor's stepmom, whose name escapes me. It's good. Watch it. Anyway, I forget my original point. But Elon Musk, his fingers hardly on the pulse, is it? I know I'm one to say with pop culture references. Right, okay, but Jesus,
True.
Twilight, that is outrageous. But anyway, basically, he has uncovered that there's millions of people claiming Social Security checks that they're not for them, and maybe this implies that a lot of people aren't alive. Although, if they were still alive, have they been buried? Because otherwise that would also be added onto the population count. So they must have been buried and then risen from their graves to go and collect Social Security. Can that be done at night? Can you collect Social Security at night? Maybe they're all doing it in Alaska. There's a period of darkness in Alaska, isn't there? Who knows? This is something that Doge... This is something that Doge really needs to get onto, or maybe not, right? Okay, because this guy called Joshua Back, he tweeted in response, "I'm a database engineer here. This just demonstrates how Elon Musk does not understand how the SQL is undropped in the COBOL. He has no idea how many specially trained engineers are needed for the data integrity. Social Security servers will be fatally crashing in 2 weeks from now." So, just to explain. There aren't large numbers of elderly people. This is the Daily Cost Report. Let me just read this. Reports say that his group at Doge is made up of fairly young people. And what those kids don't realise is that Social Security uses very old computers. They're programmed with an old version of program language called COBOL. A bit of history. On May the 20th, 1875, a bunch of countries got together to create the International Bureau of Weights and Measures, which established uniform standards of mass and length. Later on, the Bureau established rules for dates as well. The date standard used a starting date of May the 20th, 1875, to honour the creation of this bureau. So old versions of COBOL, which is this programming program, use that date as a baseline. Social Security computers use that old version. Dates are stored as the number of days after May the 20th, 1875. So what happens if Social Security doesn't know a birth date? That field is empty in its records. Thus, that period appears to have a birthday of May the 20th, 1875, which is 150 years ago. That's why the crack team of youngsters, Musk users, found 150-year-old people in Social Security getting benefits. It's all really simple and as stupid as that. So we checked the real figures. This is Daily Cos, not us. Here's a table of people within the deaf field set to false and a recipient set to true. A mere 89,106 people are getting benefits and are aged 99 plus. So there are 89,000 people who are above the age of 99 that in America are actually getting benefits. And this is out of more than 50 million people. So basically, those 99 and older are getting benefits are 0.2% of the recipients. It's basically like a rounding error. But do you know how many people in America are over the age of 99?
No idea.
More than 90,000, which means that some of those who are over 99 are not claiming benefits, which basically means that there's no significant fraud, if any fraud at all. Of course, there's always going to be fraud in these systems and people like signing on for dead relatives and stuff like that. But basically, this just shows why this is a really good example of why you have experts in situations and why you shouldn't have people who don't know what the fuck they're talking about or doing going in and interfering with the idea of cost cutting or making money when they just obviously just don't really know what they're talking about. And it's again, they're doing it as a publicity stunt, and it's dangerous because they fuck around and do stupid shit like this, and actual engineers, people who are database experts, people that work in this sort of very specialized field, have been sounding the alarm and saying they're going to mess around and like cause real problems because they obviously don't know anything about what they're dealing with. And yeah, this is it. But speaking of people who don't understand things but want to get attention, David Icke also jumped on this, but he jumped on it, of course, in completely the wrong way. It says, note that when he highlights alleged fraud in Social Security, Medicare and Medicaid, that he's not doing it for you, okay? His target is to destroy all three, and he wants you to be okay with that because of the fraud he claims to have found. It's all a mind game, and it's been long planned. Anyone think that the speed in which it's happening doesn't tell you something? And so David doesn't actually understand what has gone wrong. But to be fair, he has spotted that Musk probably hasn't got most people's best interests at heart when he's looking to dismantle the Social Security infrastructure. And this is fucking embarrassing. If you're dealing with huge amounts of money like this, and you're making claims as outlandish and outrageous as this, and continually being shown to be wrong, at what point do people really get pissed off with it? Like, do you know what I mean? It's stupid. Like
that's the moment we're waiting for.
Yeah. Now, there was a bit of a twist to this story because it transpired that there was an occasion where there were payments made to dead people of over $1 billion. But Doge isn't really going to be bothered about this because it was by the very first Trump administration. You see, what happened was, as CNBC reported, the Government Accountability Office. So there is one of those fucking things. So there's no reason for Doge to exist, is there? And you know what they did? They actually uncovered some fucking errors. Because they found out that 1.1 million payments, totaling almost $1.4 billion, were mistakenly sent to people who were dead in April the 30th, 2020. So, what happened here? So, the government actually was rushing to get stimulus checks. And these stimulus checks were authorized by Congress with the $2 million CARES Act, about $300 billion of which went to the $2 trillion CARE Act, about $300 billion of which went to the pay program. About 160 million payments totaling $269 billion have been sent out. However, these payments are based on either the 2018 or the 2019 tax returns. So some individuals who filed, they still receive payments even though they passed away. So basically what happened was there was over 1 million people who in that 2 years had died, and they all received a check. And the check was about $1,200. Now, what happened was all of those checks were cashed. Their relatives received them and probably went, yeah, you know what, I'm cashing this. And because of the CARES Act, essentially there was no law in place to get that money back. So there was a huge error there on the part of the Trump campaign, and it cost the American taxpayer over $1 billion. Yeah, you know, so it shows that accidents do happen. Like, and you know, governments are always a bit shonky. But thus far, Elon Musk has failed to uncover any fraud at all. But he does happen to sort of know some frauds. You know, Javier Milei, the president of Argentina.
Oh yeah.
Well, he might be in a bit of hot water because he's basically been accused of fraud over the promotion of a cryptocurrency, which probably means that you could call him a crypto fascist. A crypto fascist, Brent. Anyway, basically,
I had to hold that in.
according to Euronews, lawyers in Argentina have brought a fraud case against the country's president Javier Milei for promoting a cryptocurrency whose value soon plummeted. The libertarian leader wrote about the digital currency called $Libra in a tweet on Friday. The cryptocurrency was aimed at encouraging economic growth by funding small businesses and startups, he said, before deleting his social media posts a few hours later. His message included a link to a website where the digital coins could be obtained. The domain name Viva la Libertad Project is a reference to a well-known phrase Milei uses at the end of his speeches, which translates to "Long live freedom." Shortly after Milei's post on X, the value of $Libra, which was developed by Kip Protocol, collapsed, causing millions of dollars in losses for investors, according to the financial site DexScreener. Jonathan Baldivizio, one of the lawyers who filed charges against Milei on Sunday, alleged that an indeterminate number of frauds have been committed. Milei has said that his political rivals are trying to take advantage of the episode. I was not aware of the details of this project, and after getting informed, I decided not to continue promoting it, which is why I deleted the tweet, he said. The numbers, though, paint a brutal picture. 86% of traders who bought into Libra lost money, with total losses reaching $251 million, according to blockchain analytics from Nansen. A lucky few pocketed $180 million. So this is another example of what's called a pump and dump, where essentially somebody, Andrew Tate has done it, Adam22 did it, the Hawk Tour girl did it. So, you know, the president
Trump did it, didn't he?
Trump did it as well, absolutely. So
like a few days before he was inaugurated.
Yeah,
or Christmas Day or something.
Yeah,
some
and Melania did as well. Basically, they both did, and they both did pump and dump schemes where lots of people lost money. I think their coins are still going, but I think no one's making any money off them. And I think the reason that they're still going is just to basically hide the obvious fraud. It's never going to pick up again. But this one, basically, just everyone lost the money. How it works is, you've got like a certain amount of saleable coins, and then you've got like the investor's wallet. And the investor's wallet is a certain percentage of these coins which aren't for sale to the general public. What happens is when the general public buy their coins, it raises all the price of the coins. But then if all the people in the wallet suddenly go, well, that's enough money for us, and they sell theirs, all the money that's been invested, the rest of the coin loses its value. And so they sell theirs at the highest value, and that immediately causes the value of the remaining stock, or the stock owned by the members of the public, to drop. And because they tend to do it so quickly, like almost immediately after launch, that's why so many people get caught up in these things.
What was that? I pretty much zoned out the minute you started. The crypto bros.
Well, I don't understand it either, but I've been watching CoffeeZilla recently, and that's essentially how it works. It's a really basic con. In fairness, it could be that Milei didn't make any money off of it. There's been certain cases, like Adam 22 is a podcast host. He did one recently, and he claimed that he didn't make any money off it. He just got paid like however much to promote it. However, you still are promoting it, so you still have a massive degree of responsibility towards people, because like people wouldn't have bought it without your say so. So you're completely responsible. With the Hawk Tour girl, it's unclear whether she made any money off of it or whether she was also sort of essentially kind of tricked. But this is just the latest sort of scam. It was NFTs and stuff like that. This is the latest thing. But the reason that it's so sketchy that such prominent people are doing it is because, as I say, it's completely unregulated. But I'll tell you one thing that is very, very well regulated, perhaps too well regulated in some areas, at least according to some. Germany. Now, basically, MAGA has kind of exploded because there was a 60 Minutes show that was on CBS, and it talked about German laws about insulting people on the internet, and this is somewhat fed into this sort of idea that, you know, you can get arrested just for saying you're English in this country, and how there's no free speech and how you're not allowed to say anything. Now, Germany has always had slightly different sort of rules and all, but also like slightly different sort of standards of what is considered polite and what is considered not polite and stuff. I remember you telling me the stories about nudity, for example, is not considered a big deal in Germany. Talking about the Holocaust or denying the Holocaust is considered a big deal in Germany, and for obvious reasons. Essentially,
and Nazi salutes are
yeah,
a big deal.
Yeah, quite. Anyway, I don't know much about this, and I have mixed feelings on this, but CBS reported that in an effort to protect discourse, German authorities have started prosecuting online trolls. As we saw, it often begins with a pre-dawn wake-up call from the police. It's 6:01 on a Tuesday morning, and we're with the state police as they raided this apartment in northwest Germany. Inside, 6 armed officers searched a suspect's home, then seized his laptop and cell phone. Prosecutors say those electronics may have been used to commit a crime. The crime? Posting a racist cartoon online. At the exact same time across Germany, more than 50 similar raids played out. Part of what the prosecutors say is a coordinated effort to curb online hate speech in Germany. Now, I'll immediately say CBS there have done something a bit shonky, which is they've said armed police. All police are armed in America. I would assume, that police are all armed in Germany.
Yes.
Right. So the armed there is just to make it sound like it's a lot more over the top than it actually is. Also, this particular person has been he hasn't even been arrested, but he's had his laptop and electronic devices seized because he's posted a racist cartoon online. That is actually illegal, like particularly if it's directed as a hate crime. Like, and we don't know what that cartoon was. Like, it could have been something relatively harmless. It could have been an off-color joke. It could have been something really, really like grim. We don't know. So they're already kind of weighting this article. But anyway,
Could have been something insightful.
It could have been. We don't know.
To incite something.
Yeah. Basically, Sharon, who's the host, says, "What's the typical reaction when people show up at somebody's door and they say, 'Hey, we believe you wrote this on the internet'?" And Dr. T.W.A.T.S. Fink said, "They say in German we say, 'Das wird man ja wohl noch sagen dürfen.' So we're here with crimes of talking, posting on the internet, and the people who are surprised that this is really illegal to post these kinds of words." And the host says they don't think it was illegal. And Dr. T.W.A.T.S. Fink says, no, they don't think it is illegal. And they say, no, that's my free speech. And we say, no, You have free speech as well, but it also has limits. As prosecutors explain, the German constitution protects free speech, but not hate speech. And here's where it gets tricky. German law prohibits any speech that could incite hatred or is deemed insulting. It's illegal to display Nazi symbolism, a swastika, or deny the Holocaust. That's clear. But is it also a crime to insult somebody in public? And Svenja Menninghaus said yes. And when questioned, is it a crime to insult them online as well? Yes. And Dr. Matthias Fink says the fine could be even higher if you insult someone in the internet. So immediately there, it's a fine. It's not jail time or anything like that. It's a fine. So Sharon, the host, asks why, if it's on the internet, would the fine be higher? And he says because in the internet it stays there. If we're talking face to face, you insult me, I insult you. Okay, finish. But if you're on the internet, or if I insult you or a politician, it sticks around forever. And that's actually something that I'd not really considered, like because there
I
are,
just thought that's quite a fair point, actually.
yeah, because there are arguments about where the line is drawn with free speech, but that certainly is the thing, and it made me silly actually think about, like, for example, like the Manchester case and such. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, even though, say, Martin's been to court to have, like, Richard take certain stuff down, I saw someone posting stuff about Richard's Manchester series the other day, like literally the other day. So that this is true. The sad fact is that it does stay on the internet. Now, an insult is a crime. That's, again, I don't know about that. Were you aware of that when you lived in Germany? Was that a thing?
No, not really. No.
Is it one of these things where it's basically, like, I suspect it's one of these things where it's basically a bit like taping stuff off the radio, like that people used to do, or like pirating the occasional DVD or something like that, right? Or getting
or
CDs
probably
off.
like libel.
Well,
And
here's the thing.
libel and slander,
That's just
maybe.
what I was going to say. It's a bit like sort of like burning CDs off LimeWire or whatever. Everybody knows you're not supposed to do it, but the likelihood of you getting prosecuted for it is very, very slim, unless you were doing it on an industrial scale. And the same with sort of speech. It would have to cross a threshold before people would bother to sort of approach you. The host goes on to say, if someone posts something that's not true and then somebody else reposts it or likes it, are they also committing a crime? And Svenja Menninghaus says, yeah, in the case of reposting, it is a crime as well, because the reader can't distinguish whether you just invented this or just reposted it. The punishment for breaking hate speech laws can include jail time, but only for repeat offenders. In most cases, a judge levies a stiff fine and sometimes would keep their electronic devices. The examples that they show are hate speech that basically led to the murder of a man called Walter Lubka, a pro-immigration politician, in 2019. They also show people asking for immigrants to be killed. However, apparently in Germany, it is also illegal to call a politician something as tame as a jerk or a son of a bitch. So this is the thing. It is a fine line. I'm not sure that I would agree with that personally. But again, do you know what? I don't think Germany gives a fuck what I think, particularly the law courts of Germany. I really don't think that the Chancellor is going to listen to this and go, well, hang on, if Neil thinks that that's a bit much, maybe we should change our mind. Someone else who disagreed was J.D. Vance. Basically, as you remember, he'd just spoken in Munich last week, doing the whole Europe censorship. He did blast this Orwellian German hate speech law. Insulting someone is not a crime, and criminalizing speech is going to put real strain on the European-US relationships. And in that vein, I'd like to say, J.D. Vance, you eyeline-wearing twat. It's not a crime. He goes on to say, this is Orwellian, and everyone in Europe and the US must reject this lunacy. The thing is...
Hold on. I just thought, I'm sure every band that you like, probably, like, they wear eyeliner.
They certainly wear some corpse paint. Absolutely. Yeah. I don't mind the eyeliner. I don't mind eyeliner per se. It's just a way to hurt JD Vance's feelings. He's no David Bowie, right? You know, he's no
True.
Marilyn Manson. Like, so you can't get away with it. Like, if he could pen a black metal tune as well as One by One by Immortal, then he could even. This is the thing. Like, they're so good, they can carry fucking axes and wear armor, which looks fucking stupid, but they own it and they get away with it because they're shit up. JD Vance couldn't carry an axe. JD Vance couldn't wear armor. I bet he can't even do a fucking tremolo pick. The guy's shit. I wouldn't listen to his album. Anyway, the thing is, right, okay, there might be a degree of something to this. Like, okay, I personally, I mean, for Christ's sake, you're listening to this, you know, I think you understand my opinion on whether you should be allowed to insult people, particularly public figures. So I wouldn't agree with that. There is, it depends on how this law is enforced, to be quite honest. Like, do you know what I mean? It's one of those things where you could see perfectly sensible iterations of it, and you could see iterations where it's completely over the top. It's one of those things that requires nuance, I think, and intelligence to talk about it. And I don't think you're going to get that. I don't think that's why these stories are being put out. I think these stories are being put out as red meat, and they're being hyped.
Yeah, I mean, on the surface, it seems like overreach. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like you said, we don't know the context of who these people are who were arrested. Maybe there was even more to the story that hadn't been hadn't been told to the press, because police do hold stuff back at the end of the day.
The story
who knows?
I mean, the story very much implies that if you went on Twitter and went, Angela Merkel's a jerk or something like that, then you would get a knock at your door at 6 a.m. by armed police. But that doesn't. The story doesn't actually show that. The story shows that
something else. Yeah, exactly.
Something completely different. That somebody that posted racist cartoons got a knock on the door and had his device taken off of him to check to see if it was him that actually sent that. And the story even actually has to clarify that basically most people will just get a stiff fine, and it's only repeat offenders. But here's the thing, like, you don't know what the constitution of repeat is within this. It could well constitute harassment. Like, if I was to go, if you were to target a particular politician or whatever, and every day send them 100 messages calling them a jerk, I could understand why that might actually constitute a crime. So do you know what I mean? If it's a one-time deal, that seems a little bit over the top for my liking, but yeah. But as I say, I think this is the problem. This topic, there is a debate to be had. There is a debate about even things like the Digital Service Acts and stuff like that. There's problems that could arise from them, and censorship and directing of voices in political ways that is just as bad as propaganda, for example. But it requires nuance and intelligence, and nuance and intelligence is certainly lacking in JD Vance's argument. And another area where nuance and intelligence is completely lacking is in the ongoing battle between David Icke and Alex Jones. See, Alex puts out this video whining, and it's bizarre. Like, he's moaning because everybody's saying that he's sticking up for Donald Trump and he's sticking up for Elon Musk and he's a complete sellout and he's going against all these principles, and they're telling the truth about what he's actually doing. But Alex isn't happy about this, and so he puts out this video, and in it he says, and he's talking about the trolls that are having a go at him. They have no effect on us other than being mentally ill. They should just come back for the big win. Oh, Jones is just on Trump and Musk constantly just sucking their weenies on air. And it's just, look, I've almost been put in prison and my family destroyed, and my parents bankrupted because they attacked them to get at me for years, fighting these people for years. You bet. I'm getting the living shit kicked out of me, and some 1,000-pound gorilla jumps in and beats my enemy to a pulp. You bet I like that gorilla. I mean, he paints a very vivid picture. I mean,
sorry, I try to hold it in. I tried to hold the laughs in until you're finished, but
no, it's fine. Like, I mean, this is beautiful. These groups were starting nuclear war and bankrupting everything. And you're surprised that groups got together and rode in on the populist movement that we helped build together and come and have change. Everything doesn't have to be pure corruption and evil. Nothing will ever be perfect, but we don't need a government absolutely out to get us. We could just not have that. But you've got to demand it, and you've got to be informed. You've got to have energy. You've got to be involved. I didn't go out and do PayPal and Tesla and SpaceX and Starlink and OpenAI and I'm forgetting half the others. The Boring Company. All of that. I just got one job fighting the globalists, and I'm obsessed with. I'm definitely on what you would call the spectrum. You bet I love. After being held under the water, holding my breath, to finally have President Trump and Elon Musk reaching down and saying, have some air. And people are saying, Jones ought to punch him in the nose. What the fuck is Elon Musk doing? What the fuck? Elon Musk pulls me out of the water, and what? I just bite his nose off? Just bite his nose clean off? I don't bite the hand feeding me, when the hand feeding me is 100% aligned with what I want to do to the globalists. And then he compares Donald Trump and Elon Musk to Sauron from The Lord of the Rings. And he gets all excited because he remembers that bit at the beginning of in Lord of the Rings where Sauron kills people with a big mace. And he acts that out like a kid that's just come out of the cinema would, going, remember that bit? And he's killing them all. It's like, yeah, boom, bang. And at no point does anyone point out to him that Sauron's the bad guy. So, anyway, few bits to go through in there. Like, first off, it's like, oh, they have no effect on us other than being mentally ill, which is a particularly childish way to sort of start it. It then goes on to rant for about 4 minutes, proving that they absolutely have had an effect on him.
which I'm very tempted to make you go back and do again in your Alex Jones impression.
Oh, I can't. It's too long, and he gets too angry with it.
It's too angry, yeah.
He's too angry.
I prefer the documentary over speak instead. That's better.
But he then goes like, they tried to put me in prison, which I don't think is true. My family destroyed. I mean, if that's true, that's down to you. Like, you divorced from your first wife. She said that you were very unpleasant. And your second wife, you accused her of cheating on her and employed Blackwater mercenaries to spy on her. So, there you go. My parents bankrupted. Well, that's probably because you ended up borrowing money off your parents, but that's what you've done throughout your entire career. You wouldn't have had a career without borrowing money from your dad. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but you pretend actively that that's not the case. Anyway, so basically he's saying that Donald Trump and that are sticking up for him. And he sort of says that he's doing that because they want to do the same as he wants to do to the globalists. He kind of fucks up, though, because he does say this line, and I don't know if people picked it up, but everything doesn't have to be pure corruption and evil. Nothing will ever be perfect. Which implies that he wants everything to be corrupt and evil. That's how it comes across when I've heard him say it. And obviously he's misspeaking, but it just shows that he's a prat. When he means the boring company, he doesn't mean one that's like really dull. He's got a drilling company. He made like a sort of Tesla subway system for Tesla cars. It's it's like a tunnel system that goes under Las Vegas. But it's only for Tesla cars, I think. I may be wrong.
When you read it out, I did think boring.
Well, that's how it comes across. And when I first heard him say that, I was like, that's a bit rude. But actually, yeah.
Who's he insulting?
Yeah. Like, and then at the end, when he loses it and gets into a fantasy about trying to bite Elon Musk's nose off, but then remembers that that's not what he does. But it's the thing, I don't bite the hand that's feeding me when the hand that's feeding me is 100% aligned with what I want to do to the globalist, which
Why
implies
is he
that,
biting his nose if he doesn't bite the hand?
well, it's mixed and it's confused at best. But what that also implies is that basically he absolutely would bite the hand that's feeding him if he felt that he could get something out of it. Because he specifies if they're 100% aligned with it. And it's like, it just shows that he's just got no integrity, basically. And somebody that calls him out on that is David Icke, who says, "You're a propagandist for an unfolding fascist takeover, and I will go on calling you out for it. The X algorithms love you because you are promoting the script, and you moan about shadow banned sites with integrity who sees the obvious." Who sees the obvious? I don't know. It's not well written. You may say you fought the globalists once, and that may be true once, but not anymore. If you didn't want to be criticised for kissing the Musk/Trump arse at every turn, you shouldn't have sold out. You chose to do that. Fine. He's put "you choose to do that." Fine. Again, it's badly written. Never mind. But then don't moan when people see it and refuse to be silent. And if you can't see what you are doing, then you are not even half as bright as you think you are. There's a lot of yous in that sentence.
I have to ask, have you got a timestamp there? Do you know what time of the day he was writing that?
Oh no, I don't actually. So like, it could be any time of the day. I've seen him tweeting at like 4 a.m. and stuff like that before. Like,
Yeah, he
but
gets up really early. That's
well,
why I was
yeah,
wondering if it was like a really, really late night tweet, and he should be in bed.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, I don't know. It's usually an early morning thing. It's not like a Paul Joseph Watson where for some reason he's up at like 6 a.m, frantically tweeting out in all caps letters and apparently gnashing his teeth. It's more a sort of, he's an old gentleman, isn't he? So I suppose he gets up. He might just be a morning person, you know. But yeah, it's. This is the thing. This is the fallout that we're seeing, like, and it's real consequences of Alex Jones selling out, essentially.
No, I think actually, like, he's got to be a pensioner. Do you think he draws his pension?
Yeah, probably.
Like, what a hypocrite, right?
Well, probably, yeah, but I mean, I don't think that's the only thing that David is hypocritical about. Like,
No, but
like,
it just made me think. Actually, he's a pensioner. That's why he gets up early.
it's
And then it made me
difficult to
think,
say because he gives
he
out
draws his pension.
well, he gives out the impression that he lives very humbly, and he may well live very humbly. He's got this flat on the Isle of Wight, but he earns a huge amount of money from Iconic and from his book sales. Like, we could probably check his company out on Company's House, actually, see what their returns are and see how much money they make. I bet we'd fucking be appalled. We might do that.
I did look it up a few years back.
And what was he? He must be a millionaire.
I can't remember how much it was. All I remembered was the significant thing was that he signed it all over to Gareth before the pandemic hit.
Yeah, and then he signed it back, didn't he?
They signed it back to him. Yeah,
but the thing is, I think
he must have been retiring.
I wonder if Gareth and Jamie are in charge of Iconic then. But Iconic, I mean, they do have outlays and stuff like that. But I remember when I briefly worked for them, and they were pushing the it's a subscription only thing. I remember them hitting a threshold where I worked out, I was like, fuck, that's £500,000 that they've made, like, off subscriptions alone. And they weren't the highest paying of organizations. Certain people complained to me that they had to chase them up for money and stuff like that. I got paid. I bought a Crombie coat with it. Love that coat. Taste.
Well, for your series.
Yeah. I say I did a series. I basically turned up for like a week, didn't I? And like filmed like 1 or 2 episodes a day. Just stood with Richard Willett, and he filmed it. And then I'd go.
The guy who sounds like Joe Pasquale.
He does a little bit. He's very short and he's blonde. He's got a beard. He's a nice guy actually, but he's very, very sort of enamored with the things. And obviously, like the second that I mentioned anything about COVID and stuff like that, they all blocked me, didn't they? When I said, "Hang on, COVID's fucking real," what you idiots? They all blocked me on most social media. So I've got no idea what's going on with them anymore. I don't really care, if I'm brutally honest, other than with this, but. You know, but as I say, this infighting between Alex and David is David's. I mean, he's really not really want to speak because he's done so many things that lack integrity as well. But like, he's absolutely right in this, and as we've seen, that's why Alex is complaining, because people are getting pissed off with him, pointing out that he's a sellout. But you know, if you do certain things, you have to face certain consequences, I'm afraid. Somebody else that was facing consequences is a person that I used to know that we've actually done quite a lot of stuff about on this particular podcast, is Richard D. Hall. Now, some people may know who Richard D. Hall is. He's a conspiracy theorist that has an online show called Rich Planet, and he's looked at all sorts of things: UFOs, the Madeleine McCann case. I used to go on there quite a lot when I was into conspiracy theories. Richard was essentially the person who got me started in this industry, or in that industry, by saying, "You're good at this, you should do this," and blah blah blah, and got me doing talks and appearing on his show and stuff like that. As he sort of went on, like, he got wackier and wackier in his beliefs, and one of the things that I never agreed with him on, which we've done a series on, is the Manchester bombing. Now, I highly recommend that people go and listen to our two series on that. We've got one that explains his theory and why we think it's incorrect, and then we've got another series called The Downfall of Richard D. Hall, and that covers how Richard came to believe his theory and what happened with the court case, and what the actual consequences were. Now, the consequences essentially were that he was found guilty of harassment, and he was ordered to pay punitive damages of £45,000. But he also had costs that were approaching £300,000. Prior to that, do you know how much he actually raised? Like, I was surprised by this, like, because he did like put out a GoFundMe and say, like, "I'm being stifled, the truth, blah blah blah. I'm taking flack because I'm over the target." And his fans actually clubbed together and raised quite a lot of money. Do you want to have a guess at the ballpark area?
I don't know, about what, 20 grand maybe?
£130,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
However, all of that, barring about £400, went on his costs. That's how much it cost him just to get to trial. That was paying for his solicitors and whatever he needed to do. So that £130,000 was swallowed up. Now, obviously, that's good or good for him that he didn't have to go into his pocket. But my God, that's an incredible amount of money. He was then found liable, and he, as I say, it was nearly £300,000. Since then, he's also launched an appeal, which will cost him more money. If I was really, really cynical, I would suggest that he's been conned somewhat there by his lawyer. Yeah, why not? I think we've got grounds for an appeal. There's no grounds for appeal. If you go listen to our Downfall of Richard D. Hall case, listen to what the judge said. The problem was that he presented no evidence that passed the threshold of being actual evidence. It was just all pure speculation on his part, with nothing to support it that would be considered evidence in a court of law. So there is this sort of idea that he was barred from showing his evidence. It's strictly not true. He just, the evidence, I mean, I'll put it this way, right? He said that the Manchester bombing didn't happen, that it was a big hoax. So two people that were caught up in the case, Martin and Eve Hibbert. Eve, who was a teenager at the time, he actually tried to film her at her address to prove that she was faking her injuries. They took him to court, and their case was that he'd harassed them and lied about them through a series of films and this book. And his defense was going to be, no, I didn't, because you're faking those injuries, because you were never at Manchester, and Manchester never happened, and I don't even believe that you are father and daughter. And this was shown to be absolute nonsense, obviously, and that is why his case failed. You have to bring new evidence in order to be able to lodge an appeal, and I suspect that basically his lawyer's just trying to grift some more money off of him, basically. Anyway, he still owes this over £300,000, I believe it will be by now. And he sent out an email, and I'm still on his mailing list, so from years ago, and it said, I will be attending an online High Court hearing in relation to the legal action I am involved with. The hearing is to decide whether a charging order will be placed on my property. I will be representing myself. The hearing is on Thursday, the 20th of February at 3:30 p.m. If you wish to watch the hearing, you will need to provide a name and an email address, which I will then send to the court. You will then be provided with a link which will enable you to watch the hearing live. Normal court rules apply. Send your name and email address to blah, 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 blah. Thank you, Richard. Now, what this means is that they really, really want their money. What they're doing is they'll probably set up a payment plan, but this really does mean that Richard could lose his home. This is a charging order, is a court order that attaches a debt to a debtor's property. It's a secured debt that can be used to recover money owed if the property is sold or remortgaged. And this is from Citizens Advice. A court order means that you have to either make regular payments to your creditor or pay off the whole debt by a certain date. When your creditor has a court order against you, they can apply for another court order that secures the debt against your home or other property you own. And this is called a charging order. A charging order is very serious. You could lose your home if you don't pay back what you owe. After your creditor gets a charging order, they can usually apply to the court for another order to force you to sell your home. And this is called an order for sale. And so the long and the short of it is that basically, like, because that's an asset that Richard's got, they might say the securing the debt to it, as far as my understanding goes, means that you can't sell it and run off. If you sell it, that money has to go towards the debt. And if you don't make payments back on a regular basis, depending on what the court decides, they could basically say, well, you have to sell your house then. You have to sell your house and pay us some money. How much? I honestly don't know, because I've never been in a situation like this. But it's just crazy, isn't it, that it's come to this? Like that. Richard had gone out to make a name for himself. Richard had gone out to basically. We've said this before. Like, okay, this is not to defend Richard, but this is just to explain. Alex Jones with Sandy Hook knew that he was lying. He just knew that he would get clicks and a certain amount of respect in certain fields for peddling the idea that no one died at Sandy Hook. Richard genuinely believes that nobody died at Manchester, which is a fucking stupid belief. But it is a sincere belief. Now, you could also make the argument that he might have forced himself to believe that because of the persecution that he is getting from the authorities. But it's very, very silly. But this is the sad and tragic thing, is that he genuinely thought he was uncovering a crime. He genuinely thought that he was trying to do some good for the world. Now he hasn't. He's done some terrible, terrible harm. And since that, he has only consistently doubled down and doubled down and doubled down. And for that, he's lost my sympathy in regards to that aspect of it. I still, it's more complicated than just saying he's a shit. Although he has done very, very, very shitty things. But then when backed into a corner, he just wouldn't face up to these things and wouldn't admit it. and he took any criticism of himself as proof that he was being persecuted, and the only reason he was being persecuted is because he's correct. And it goes round and round and round, and it's a tragic state of affairs that people can get themselves into when they get hooked up on any belief structure too much. That you can lose family members, you can lose friends, you can lose people, not just because of like conspiracy theories, but because of political leanings and because of things like that. The way that this is bleeding between those two genres, shall we say, milieux, fields at the minute, that's where it's getting really tragic. And despicable people are taking advantage of people who are looking for answers. And it's just, you know, it's an absolutely shit state of affairs, basically.